today we're going to do a simple hand lettering project on a piece of scrap wood that I found in my shed. So like this video, leave a comment, let me know that you're here, and come along and see what we're going to create today. All right, so here's my little scrap wood that I found in the shed. It's about 3/4 inch plywood. So I just gave it a quick little dusting of a sand to get any of the little fuzzies off of it. And then we grabbed some supplies. So I've got just basic Patriotic colors. So what I'm wanting to do today is hand letter freehand a sign for a shelf sitter that will be for some good patriotic red, white, and blue Independence Day decor. So I've got a red, which is Candy Apple Red by Apple Barrel, Blue Odyssey by Folk Art, and then just a white by Apple Barrel. These aren't any kind of fancy. Grab whatever color you want, whatever brand that you have. And then I'm going to start off with my 1-inch craft brush, paintbrush, to give this a nice good navy or Blue Odyssey background. So let's do that first. I'm gonna go for a solid background here, but this would look really good as an ombre if you had a couple different blues and you went from like a medium blue to a darker blue and you faded it together. That would look really cool. What kind of patriotic color palette are you? Do you like the darker, more nostalgic, old-fashioned navies and dark reds, or do you like the brighter, bolder reds and blues? My house is kind of a mix of both. I'm like, why choose when you like both? Use both. All right, now my edges are still raw and I would like to paint those red. So I'm gonna grab some red and I'm gonna wash out my paintbrush real quick too. That is definitely a bright, bold red. So if you said that you were more of a darker maroon red person, you're gonna want to pick a color that you like that matches your decor. So I'm not worried about this being like real perfect, covering everything. I just want it to look a little bit nicer, kind of like the raw edge would look, but it was dirty and beat up a little bit there from whatever home project my husband was working on when he cut it. So I just want to cover up the eyesore that was, but give it a little bit of color on the sides here. The hardest part about this is going to be letting it dry on the wet side before you move on. Just a little bit. right, we're gonna try to help this dry a little bit quicker here with my little heat gun. It's called the Heat It Craft Tool. All right, I'm a little bit of an impatient one. When you feel like it is dry enough that you can work with it, I'm gonna just pencil in my design. So what I want this to say is established, or I'm gonna abbreviate it, EST 1776. So I don't love freehanding, that's why I make templates and use templates most of the time, because it gives me a nice sense of confidence that it's going to be centered and it's going to turn out the way that I want it to. But this is a pretty simple phrase, so I figured we could do it with minimal problems. So I've penciled in established EST 1776, and I'm going to use a white chalk marker or a Posca. I'm going to see which one kind of works better. Poscas are typically what I use for my projects of painting or hand lettering on top of wood or any kind of other surface. But I pulled out this little chalk marker and it's got nice coverage on it, so I wanted to give that a try just for something different this time. So always check and make sure that it's got the ink flowing on there, and then I'm just gonna follow my guides that I gave myself, and if it doesn't feel good I might switch to the Posca. It's kind of, oh, I still got some wet paint on the side. I wasn't patient enough. All right, you see that my hand's a little bit bumpy there. I'm trying really hard not to drag my hand through the wet paint. So that little bumpiness is not permanent. All right, it's just first coat, and then we're gonna go back over all of it and smooth it all out. So let's turn this just a tad. And let's start with this 6. I don't really feel like this marker is gliding over my wood as easily as maybe the Posca does. So I kind of feel like my hand is very, like, the is even more pronounced than it might normally be, because it's just not gliding great. So let's dry that. Let's let that dry. The thing with white that you need to know is whenever it's wet, it'll keep moving around and streaking if you don't let it dry first. Black, you can kind of get away more, I feel like, without it looking streaky, but I want to let that dry, and then I'm going to switch over to this Posca and see if that feels a little bit better. All right, so this is a fine tip and this is a medium. Can you see the difference? So let's go with the medium because it's going to be a little bit bigger. A lot of times I like to use the fine instead of the medium, but for this there's not much detail, so I'm not as worried about it. All right, let's just go back over now and smooth it out, and I'm also going to add some thick down strokes. This is kind of faux calligraphy method. You just go in and add in where the thick downstroke would be if you were using a calligraphy pen. Do you see how it's kind of moving around as I'm using it and I'm going over it? So even though I dried it, I'm still kind of dealing with a little bit of the streakiness there. So everywhere where your pen or marker goes down in your normal writing is where your downstroke will be. So you can see that, and I need to decide, do I like more of that streaky look or do I want it to be completely solid white? Now, you see how we just went back over that again and we completely got rid of the bumpy, shaky hand look. All right, let's go back and do this 6. We're gonna move right to left for these numbers, just so I can rest my hand on this block of wood and not worry about smearing it too bad. If you're right-handed, you're just gonna do your usual thing. But if you feel like you might be smearing, you can always turn your surface whichever way you need to. Ooh, do you see that big old blob of ink that just came out? Lovely, lovely. Being a creative is half coming up with ideas on things to do and half problem solving when things that you didn't intend to happen. So I'm gonna kind of let that big blob that just came out dry, so I don't smear it too much. But when unexpected things happen in art and crafting and creating, you have to sometimes get a little bit creative on problem solving, how to fix it. Now the good thing with paint and wood is if we got a big smear or something, we can go back over with paint and fix it. So I could take my blue paint again and go in here and clean up anything that happens that I don't like. So you really don't need to fear whatever might happen. You can fix things. So I'm just kind of dabbing in here to try to minimize a little bit of this streaking, but you'll see it if you use a white paint pen. Most likely you will also experience a little bit of that streakiness. I'm going to straighten out this one because when I first did it, it was not gliding very well and it kind of looked crooked. And then smooth out our shaky hand here. Posca is definitely, that's why I always really kind of go for Posca, because when I try other things, I'm not usually as happy with them. Okay, and then we need our little period for the established. So let me let that dry again, and we're going to add a little bit of detail to the edges here too. All right, while that white is continuing to dry, I'm gonna do some detailed edging on the edges of this board. Well, I say the edges, around it. And then if we want to, we could do a little bit of detail on the actual edges as well. So let's go with some white. I'm gonna take my white apple barrel paint. All right, just a little bit of white. We're not gonna need very much. All right, and then I'm just gonna freehand some little dashes along here. And I want them to look a little kind of like dried brush strokes. Kind of like a little bit messy. I find that I like to do the edges of something like this first. And then we'll fill in the middle after we get this. Streaky portions with some paint instead of the Posca. Okay, so there's my little dashed edges, and then let's go over it on top of the white with the red. Just gonna take a little bit of red. Okay. All right. So there's our edging. I think I'm going to pull out some light blue too. Let me grab. Okay, I'm going to pull out this little Bahama blue. It's a little bit, bright. So it's a little bit different from your normal Americana USA colors, but I want to layer that in. I don't know, just a little bit of different shading. I'm just going to go through the middle of the letter very lightly. If you want to hold your wrist, if you don't want to put it down on top of the sign. It's almost better sometimes if you try not to be so deliberate. it. So we just went through the middle there, and I like the color a lot. So now let's take this blue and we're just gonna also layer this on top here, so that all three colors will peek out. That's a little bit wet right there, I think. Water blotch on it. All right, so there is our sign and it's cute. Now, if we want, we can add a little bit of an edging to it. I'm just gonna take the white here and just give it a little bit of an edging. Okay, so now we have a cute little shelf sitter sign that we can put somewhere in the house. Let me go find a cute place to put it, but we just freehanded, we painted, just some simple supplies. This only took me about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes to wait for the paint to dry. But listen, if you're in the Scripted Faith Collective, I will take this design and I will put it inside the collective for you so that you can use it and you don't have to worry about freehanding it. But hey, if you're up for it, give it a try, because freehanding hand lettering can be super fun and very rewarding. I like it. What do you think? Put it in the comments below. Let me know if this is something that you would try. Thanks again for watching. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this tutorial and subscribe so you don't miss any future projects like this one. I've got a lot more fun things to come. See you next time.